2021 is turning out to be an amazing year for the Jordan lows. The Jordan 1 lows are all over the place all the time, but this year we've had amazing Jordan lows, like right here, the Jordan 5 lows for the Chinese New Year is a beautiful shoe. And we've also had this, a Jordan 12 low for Easter. And it's that shoe that I want to zone right in on, because when I saw today's shoe, this Jordan 11 low, I was like, wow, they could be sister shoes. They're almost identical in their construction and their little hits and their little details and the little story of the shoes. So today, that's what I'd like to do with you guys, is to take you through the shoe that is the Jordan 1 11 low, but focusing in on how it compares to those 12s that have preceded them. So without further ado, let's get into this and take a look at the upcoming release of the Legend blues. This is the Tokyo Bara 23 sneaker channel. Tokyo Bara 23 sneaker channel des.毎日アップするので毎日見てください. Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today in the spotlight is a Jordan 11 low coming around the corner on April the 24th. And this is just where I like to be. I love to be in this situation where I'm bringing you guys content that's about 10 days to 2 weeks ahead of the drop date and giving you an insight into what to look for on the shoe and whether to go for it or not. And that is the case with today's Jordan 11 lows. Now, right off the bat, I usually like to talk about these sneakers and the Jordan 12s because of that two-tone effect that almost all of the sneakers have in that line. So what we'll do is we'll check up some pictures behind me here, and we'll start with the classic Jordan 11 Concords, which is just about the shoe that everybody knows from the line, especially if you think about Space Jam, stretching basketball beyond not just the sports fans, but into sort of regular culture, if you like. So those black and white Jordan 11s, and then we might as well go with the flu game Jordan 12s. I'll be able to find a pair, or maybe the reverse flu games, depends which shoe I find in my files. But anyway, black and red two-tone Jordan 12. So that two-tone effect is a real signature for the 11s and the 12s, whether the highs or their lows. But then just a few weeks ago, to celebrate Easter, the Jordan 12s came out with this low right here, which is very distinctly a double white on the mudguards and white on the rest of the upper. And like I say, usually that would be two-tone, and then here we are today with these Jordan 11s, and it's exactly the same. It's not just that with these 11s though, because usually the bottom half of the construction, maybe, do we want to go with 80% at the time, is patent leather. So those classic Concords we were talking about before, the patent leather that comes around the lower half of the shoe in black and then the rest of the shoe in white. And then we come forward to today's shoe in that double structure with the mudguards low and then the upper high. But the mudguards are not in patent leather on these guys. It's in a very sort of soft white leather, which goes with that story of the shoe being an all white shoe. But it is the Legend blues. We've got to look into that and find out where those little blue hits are and compare them to the 12s with their little blue hits as well. And then, of course, looking at the rest of the construction of the shoe. And then you guys can make a decision out there of whether you want to go chasing these guys on April the 24th. So with that being said, let's get into this and have a look at the shoe. So first things first, like I've already said, it's a double white shoe that we're looking at today, as was the case with the Easters. Now, the Easter guys dropped somewhere along the line. I want to go with April the 4th. maybe it was the 5th. But it was early April to celebrate Easter. Those Jordan 12s were dropping, and all that white upper, and you can compare that to today's shoe, all that white upper as well. But there's a tiny little detail that I really like comparing between the two shoes, and basically it's the fact that the lining's different, but it doesn't feel that way. On the 12s, the lining was all white and very much in line with the rest of the shoe, but here on today's 11s, it's in black. But because the back end of the 12s had a big black tag on the back there, it still has that feeling of a little hit of black, just in the same way the top line has black on these 11s. So it's a kind of half and half place to start. Instead of being an absolute straight, this is exactly the same like those double white effects. It's just a feel for me about that little black hit at the top there, where it's coming in the lining on these 11s and it came on the tag on the back of the 12s. But speaking of tags on the back, this is a great place to go have a look for a hit of that light blue. So we're around the back of the 11s, as you can see, embroidered onto the heel there, just below that 23 in white on the black lining. You've got an embroidered light blue Jumpman. Now we can say, I think, university blue for this, because that's the University of North Carolina, where Michael Jordan went. And this light blue to me is very much the university blue for his line, and that's why we're seeing it on this shoe today. Now the shoe does hark back to, I think it was a 97 All-Star game, or was it the dunk contest, or somewhere along those lines. It is a shoe that comes out back to us out of his like 25 years ago, 24 years ago. I don't know much about that. I wasn't really into basketball back in those days, but it definitely has that ring of the university blue from Jordan's university days, in that light blue on the back there, and that comes in really hard and really fast on the back, and that embroidered Jumpman on there. But speaking of hits of blue, there's another great place to go look at the hits of blue, is to compare back to the 12s. You can see right on the mid foot they have that Jumpman bit of a bit of branding in the middle of the shoe, and that kind of arc that sort of emanates the rays of the sun, because they are inspired by Japan, the land of the rising sun. So the light blue down there, and then up on the top eyelet on those 12s, you've got the light blue there. So then if we come back to these shoes today, the other place that we want to go looking for that light blue is in the middle of the lacing system. And this is one of the neat features about the Jordan 11s, is that writing that runs across the middle of the lacing system. It almost looks like you could read it straight on, but actually you need to turn your head to the side and see, for example, that it says on the right shoe, Jumpman this way, not that way. But the big feature and the important point to note is that it's in that light blue. And again, this is the little tie-up that goes between those 12 Easters and these 11 Legend blues, because it's definitely, almost exactly the same balance of colours. The whole white, the little hits of blue on there, and that is also carried through onto the outsole. So we'll start with the 12s just very quickly, so you can see that kind of fan effect that runs through the middle of the shoe. But the most important feature on that is the semi-translucent light blue wrap around on the outsole. And then if we flip that out and come to today's shoe and have a look at what's going on the outsole there, you can see semi-translucent light blue as well. But of course the 11s and the 12s have different paw prints on them, different signature hits down below, but they definitely managed to keep the similarity between the two shoes because of that light blue semi-translucence on both of them. And it's a really neat way to sort of finish up this comparison between the two shoes. So coming back out and having a look, we'll start with the 12s, and after all that I've just explained to you about midfoot branding and top eyelets and the back where there's the black hit, and then the two whites above instead of it being a two-tone sneaker, and then we flip that out and have a look at the 11s that are coming around the corner in just about 2 weeks time. You can see exactly the same balance, the whole white upper, couple of little hits of light blue in there, and then of course the little bit of black on the back and a little bit of translucent light blue on the outsole to kind of finish off that effect. So but the big question is whether or not you're going to go after these guys, or whether or not you already went after those 12 lows. Now for me, I've never been that big a fan of the 11 lows. Now they do sometimes come with a much more deconstructed upper, and that mudguard that wraps around will be deconstructed to reveal much more of the upper that lays within. But in the case of these guys, they haven't gone with that. They've gone with a more solid sort of effect all the way around that beautiful buttery white leather across the mudguards on there. So it's, but for me it's just not a shoe I'm all that interested in. I know it's legendary. I know if you go back to the black and whites, the Concords, they're legendary and people kind of crave over them and stuff like that. But it's just a shoe that's never done it for me. I know that kind of sets me apart from a lot of people. A lot of people would just be like, no, this is a grail, and you just accept it. But I don't know. I know what it is about it. I think it's the patent leather that I just don't get. I'm not a huge fan of patent leathers on shoes anywhere. It's not just those 11s and the wraparound. But that's just me. That's just my take on it. It's not my favorite kind of shoe. But I don't bring you content every single day about my favorite shoes. I'm bringing content every single day about the upcoming releases and what might be your favorite shoe, and hopefully you can make a decision about whether you want to get into a shoe like this one today based off of a video like this. So fingers crossed it's been helpful to you, and hopefully I've given you some insight into the shoe, its construction and the branding that's all wrapped up in it. So April 24th coming around the corner. Let me know in the comments down below if you do dip into the pockets and go ahead and grab yourself a pair. For now though, it's time for me just to chip off and finish up this video. It's been a long week. I'm shooting this on Sunday night. It was a tough day today with the little 3-year-old, so probably going up I think Tuesday or Wednesday's video. But for now I just need to chip off and go ahead and edit this one before we finish out the end of this week and get into the working week tomorrow. So I'll just say thanks for checking out the content, but I'll remind you that I do this every single day, and that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.